Well, Spain, which has had one of the strictest lockdowns in Europe, is now allowing children to leave their homes if they're with an adult for the first time in 6 weeks. There have been more than 23,000 confirmed deaths in the country, with 288 reported today, the lowest number in well over a month. Damian Grammaticas has more from Madrid.
Released after 42 days cooped up inside. All 6 members of the Correspondent family finally today able to get out of their apartment block. Spain's lockdown rules banned children from going outside. So while the boys played Cluedo, 6-year-old Rocio had the balcony as her playroom. But today, Spain relaxed those rules. 8 million children freed from their confinement.
I was bored inside. I don't like it. I want to be outside.
Now they can be for an hour a day. And this is what the boys have missed most, a kickabout.
Oh, for them was the hardest thing. Yeah, play football. They love it and they miss it really much. They couldn't do this in your apartment. Yeah, no, not at all. They are not allowed to do it.
I couldn't go out in these 40 days and me and all my family are people who like to go out and have fun in the outside.
But this opening up is limited. Almost everyone in Spain is still confined, allowed out only for essential tasks.
Spain has some of the toughest lockdown restrictions of any country in Europe. It's why it's still so quiet here. If the rate of infections continues to decline, though, the Prime Minister says adults may be allowed out to exercise, but only in a week's time.
Today, though, was the Children's Day, Maria's Day. For 6 weeks, Maria and Pablo have been stuck with a tantalising view of the park across the road. And that's what she made a beeline for as soon as she was outside. Papa, the 4-year-old says, look at this, look what I have for Mum, before heading off to pick some more. Spain's moves are cautious. More than 23,000 people have died here, and no one wants to take risks.
Of course it's worrying. A lot of people have been infected, and we worry about the older generation.
But at least Paloma can now catch up with friends from a distance, while Maria gets used to life in a mask and the small joys of being outside. Damian Grammaticas, BBC News, Madrid.
Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte has announced an easing of his country's coronavirus lockdown measures from next month. He says takeaway food outlets can reopen and visits to relatives in small numbers can resume. Schools, however, will remain shut and social distancing will be in force for months. Italy has been in strict lockdown for 7 weeks. The pandemic is another public health challenge for drug users in Scotland who, before coronavirus, were dying at the highest rate in Europe. Now a GP in Edinburgh has put together a package of support, including getting medical students to deliver methadone prescriptions to those who can't leave their homes. Our social affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan has the full story.
In these strange times, drug workers have become vital couriers, delivering methadone to heroin users who have to isolate.
Can you confirm your date of birth? Yes. Right, can you just take a wee step back? I'll leave it on your map for you. Great. Okay.
It's all part of a huge effort to protect some of Edinburgh's most vulnerable residents from COVID-19. With no tourists to accommodate, this hotel is housing around 80 rough sleepers. Anyone showing symptoms of the virus is immediately tested. Though no one has yet had the disease, a section of the hotel has been turned into an isolation unit to care for anyone who becomes ill.
If the virus spreads extensively through my patients, our practice population, then there will be high numbers of fatalities.
Much of this effort has been led by Dr. John Budd, a GP who works daily with the homeless and those with addictions.
People who are homeless often have multiple underlying difficulties. And unless we help them to address some of those underlying issues, then with regard to COVID, then they're not going to be able to actually keep themselves safe and other people safe. So if someone has an addiction issue and we're asking them to self-isolate, they're going to be unable to do that unless you actually help them to tackle the addiction.
Scotland is dealing with two public health crises simultaneously, the pandemic and Europe's highest level of drug-related deaths. The Edinburgh initiative includes offering heroin users the option to switch to methadone immediately instead of waiting weeks.
Very difficult.
For James and Chloe, getting their medicines delivered to a different hotel, staying safe in shared accommodation is hard.
Anyone could catch anything in here.
It's quite crowded.
Because there's two kitchens and we have to share them all and you don't know
who's got what, and people don't clean up after themselves, they leave their bits, and people are sneezing, then not washing their hands, and then...
It's quite horrible.
Horrible.
Mostly I think people are feeling quite anxious, and it's quite difficult to focus on other things that aren't their substance when they're not allowed to do anything else. Do you know, because one of the key things that we get people to do is get out and about, distract yourself, and actually now we're telling them do not do any of that.
Back at the hotel, residents have access daily to a GP.
Have you got any health problems?
Staff find the rough sleepers are seeking help, wanting support. A remarkable about-turn, considering some have spent years refusing to engage.
Miss my life, I miss my life completely.
For Grant Moffat, who spent 3 months sleeping rough, the sanctuary of the hotel has afforded him the chance to reset his life.
I'm using it as an opportunity, yeah. I miss my family, you know, think a lot about my family and stuff that I might never have. We sort of being on the street and just getting up in the morning, you know, a drink, you know what I mean, forget about the day. Waste.
Edinburgh is trying to both protect its homeless and drug-taking residents from COVID-19 and offer them a future when normality resumes, using a global pandemic to tackle a national crisis. Michael Buchanan, BBC News, Edinburgh.